See that lightsaber? Push it up or it's going to distract me the whole time.
Oh my god.
Get it to the hilt base. Hilt base. There you go. All right.
That's going to be distracting.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the I'll Watch It Later Spooktacular. Technically our first Halloween show. Not really our second. Ooh. So, this is I'll Watch It Later podcast, and we hope you guys enjoyed last week with the 2 episodes, the snack show, Fade to Black. We are back this week. I'll let Jordan introduce his movies here in just a second. We just wanted to thank everybody who's listening, and as always, I am joined by my best friend Jordan.
Hi, everybody.
And my other best friend, producer and brother-in-law Scott.
Yellow.
Who is just the worst producer. Anyways, I'll
be much better when I get paid.
We'll all be better.
I'm waiting on that paycheck.
We'll all be better when we get paid. This is why we wanted you on the show, so you gotta just deal with it. You're better and smarter than both of us.
I just fit the puzzle pieces together. That's all.
So just want to thank you all for listening last week. You can follow along at our Instagram at Watch It Later Pod, Instagram, and Watch It Later Pod on Twitter.
I was gonna say, if you just go to the website, it's got links to all the social
everything.
media.
Yeah, just go to the website. It's watchitlaterpodcast.com.
Watch It Later Pod.
Is it?
.com.
Damn. I don't even know the own. I go there like 40 times a week, and I guess
Oh, you're that guy?
I'm just dumb.
He types W, it pops up, he just hits enter.
Yes, it's watchitlaterpod.com. You can listen on the website, you can subscribe to all our social media, you can, check out all the episodes. It's all there.
Yeah, we have
Aaron doesn't know where it's at, but it's all there.
We have an even more packed show for you guys today. We just got back from seeing Halloween Kills, so we will also be discussing that today. But that's not what the show is, so let's send it over to Jordan. He can introduce his movie, and then we'll talk about Phantasm, and then we'll throw some Halloween Kills in there, and then we'll explain to you how the rest of the month is going to go. So, without further ado, Jordan, what did you have for us?
I made us watch Prince of Darkness.
Anyone in close proximity has the same dream.
What is it?
A secret that can no longer be kept. It started a month ago.
What started?
A change in the earth and the sky. His power.
There's a weird locking mechanism. Looks like it can only be opened from the inside.
A life form is growing out of prebiotic fluid. It's not winding down into disorder. It's self-organizing. It's becoming something. What?
This was the 1987 John Carpenter. I would say it's a horror film / like scientific horror film, kind of like, in the vein of like Event Horizon, where it's, got a lot of science involved and a lot of horror elements. It's really, honestly, I love John Carpenter. I mean, it was pretty cool. Right off the bat, I enjoyed this. Basically, it's the second of his Apocalypse trilogy. That started with The Thing, and then you got Prince of Darkness, and then ended with, I'm hoping that you guys haven't seen this third movie, because I still want to see it, and that's In the Mouth of Madness.
I own it.
Of course.
Sam Neill.
Have you seen it?
Own it?
I have.
Oh.
I have seen it.
I was gonna bring in like the Aaron's owned it, but he hasn't seen it. Theme song.
Yeah, we can't do the theme song,
but I can't do it now.
Yep.
Yeah, I have seen it.
I have not seen it.
Yes. Okay, so that fulfills the rules. We're gonna watch In the Mouth of Madness eventually.
You haven't seen
I
it?
have not seen it.
Oh, okay, good.
I love Sam Neill, and I've been wanting to watch it. I just haven't done it.
If we would have started this show a year ago, you would have got me, because I ordered the Shout Factory version with all the cool cover art,
right.
And I just had to watch it. And I honestly, I don't think I remembered that it was made by John Carpenter.
Yes.
So
but this film, basically, a priest gets the help of some quantum physicists. They're students in L.A., and they go investigate what I'm assuming is the ooze from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze. And it turns out it's like the liquid embodiment of Satan himself.
But I thought it was Ghostbusters 2.
No, that's pink. That's pink ooze, and
I know, but it was green. But it was doing kind of the same thing.
And
No.
can we just say that these are the oldest students that I've ever seen?
These students for UCLA bound students, these are probably in their late 30s or early 40s.
The guys look like they've been filming porn for like the last 10 years.
They literally do a shot of everyone in the classroom. Like Victor Wong is speaking to all of them, and it's like, I was like, wait a minute, these guys are 55 years old. What's going on?
He's doing like a TED Talk to a group of octogenarians or whatever.
At one point, he's like, you guys don't have quantum physics degrees yet, but you might as well.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, they've had these degrees for 10 years.
Like, what the hell? But yeah, you're right. I mean, he's talking, the main teacher of these old people is Victor Wong, another John Carpenter staple. He was also in Big Trouble in Little China. I love that guy and everything.
So I actually didn't see Big Trouble in Little China until
we had gone to the theater.
Gone to the theater to see it. Me and you and your brother.
Yeah, no, I that's one of my favorite movies. I love how just campy and dumb it is. I mean, it's got John Carpenter's fingerprints all over it. It's just one of those great. And this movie kind of does the same thing where you got some really cheesy lines, you got out of control action, and then it's just got a good horror element to this one. So yeah, Donald Pleasance plays the priest that gets everybody involved. Like I said, Victor Wong is in it. I don't know the main actor. His name was Jameson Parker. He plays the porn star with the big dumb mustache. And
I liked him.
He looked like he was like the live action version of Fred from Scooby Doo with a mustache.
Okay, I can see that.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of unknowns in this, and then there's a lot of actors that you would see and recognize, but you don't know from where. And
like Allison Cooper.
Oh, Alice Cooper's in it. Which honestly,
Allison Cooper?
I did. Why did I say that?
I don't know.
You're a dummy.
Alice Cooper.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Leave
Do we need to call 911?
No,
leave that
I'm
in.
fine.
Never take that one out.
Why did I say that?
Because you're dumb. Yeah, but so he was in it. Honestly, like he's featured on the cover art for Shout Factory's version of it. So I honestly thought Alice Cooper would play a bigger part in this movie. I don't know why, but
hobo.
he was very brief in this movie. I mean, he played a pretty cool little part, but yeah, otherwise it was very brief. But I mean, just right off the bat, I actually enjoyed this movie. I mean, it was like I said, kind of two parts, horror movie / kind of almost like a zombie flick, and a religious horror and a science film. Like it was kind of cool how they merged the two, where they were trying to explain the existence of the devil and evil in a scientific way, where it was like, our world is one world, and on the other side of the mirror, our reflection, the darker reflection, is where evil resides. It wasn't just like there's heaven and hell. It's just, the quantum. It's like a Marvel movie. It's the quantum realm. That's where evil exists. You know what I mean? Like, it was really cool how they kind of brought that science version.
You hear that,
of
kids?
a
This
horror.
is a Marvel movie.
This is great. Yeah. Allison Cooper in.
He plays Iron Man.
God.
No, I agree with you with most stuff you're saying, which is just facts at this moment. But
I love facts.
I don't agree with the zombie stuff, though. I don't think it was mostly zombie. It was to me, it was more like
Possession.
Like,
yeah.
like supernatural. Like,
yeah. Or
type.
like, as I said earlier, Ghostbusters 2, when they get the slime on them, it causes them to act different. It just felt like that to me when you start seeing all the homeless people at the beginning with the cockroaches, and clearly they can talk to bugs and evil things that we consider evil in this world.
Cockroaches.
But I watched it during the day, and I was actually surprised on how I wouldn't use the word frightened, but it made me uneasy. Like, it actually scared me a little bit. Not scared in the sense of like I couldn't sleep at night or anything, but it was mostly like how I caught myself looking away, or like waiting for the scare to happen. I guess we'll get to it, but we all got scared at the end. But yeah, there's one scene in this film that when they sleep, because they're near the liquid or something, it gives them this creepy dream, and it's like, we are broadcasting. And the whole time I was watching that, anytime that came up, it just gave me the heebie-jeebies, man.
It was shared dream, a shared
Yeah.
consciousness. So
and
like
there was like a dark figure in the doorway, and
what did you think about how the liquid infected other people with the projectile, like super soaker fucking
I thought it was
stream into everybody
into their
else's mouth.
mouths.
Like you have to shoot liquid into their mouth from your mouth. Like post COVID, this was very disturbing to me.
I thought it was campy, and in the sense, like, I thought it was just gruesome because, you know, like you said, post COVID, where it's all germs and stuff like that. But it was very campy to me. I was like, this is insane. I don't even know how that would work in real life or anything. Not that I was comparing it to real life, but I just thought that the whole...
Oh, you mean Parker has never vomited in your hands yet?
Not yet.
Okay,
but
good luck with that.
yeah, it was gruesome. Like I definitely squirmed during some of these scenes. But it felt like John Carpenter to me. Like when I was watching it didn't feel like somebody else doing that. It felt exactly kind of like when you watch The Thing or whatever, and there's like body dysmorphia and people changing, and you're kind of like, well, what's going on here? It felt like his directing style.
Well, it goes back to what I said about horror movies, and especially back in the day, that was practical. They did practical effects. Like
and
the bugs
that.
were real, the makeup was real, everything was real. Nothing was digital, so it felt like it could happen. Like there was a realness to it, and that's why I love all those horror movies, because everything was practical effects. Like there was that scene where the guy, you know, just skipping just a little bit ahead, where he's standing out underneath the street lamp, and they're all looking down on him.
That's my favorite scene. I was just about to talk about that.
Yeah, the bugs are coming out of his pant legs, and there's bugs everywhere, and then all of a sudden his head falls off, and then like his arm falls off. It's just, you could imagine them filming that on set, and they had this thing rigged up, and it felt really real. And that's what I love about these movies, is that there's that visceral, very tangible, you know, feel to them. And that's part of why I really appreciated this movie. Like I said, you know, like you said with The Thing, you know, is all, you know, you can kind of feel that as well. So, I mean, that's what's great about John Carpenter. He goes a lot of practical versus, you know, trying to fake it.
And that's why I like this movie probably more than the movie we're going to talk about later. But I just enjoyed the setup, all of it. I thought the quantum physics part of this was kind of on a back burner, that it just was a reason to get them into this church, and so many of them into this church, so you could watch them get picked off one by one.
Yeah.
What did you think, Scott? Every man, dummy.
You know, and some of the stuff you guys are talking about, you know, we're talking about, like, you know, horror visuals, you know, with the bugs and things like that. I mean, I enjoyed that stuff. For me, like the overall the movie, it was okay. I thought the first part of this movie was really slow to get to the point where they finally got into the church, and this stuff kind of started going on and happening. It kind of picked up at that point.
Well, it's only an hour and a 90-minute movie. It didn't take too long.
Well, yeah, I mean, it took long enough for me to get going.
Hour and 30 minutes.
Well,
Sorry,
I watched a behind the scenes with John Carpenter, and he goes, "This is the longest title sequence I've ever filmed," and
it was over 8 minutes.
It's an 8 to 9 minute, you know, just getting up to starting the movie. So it's a lot of just quick flashes.
And I'm glad you said that, because I went back and I was actually watching the movie. So I watched the start of it, and I went out to get a drink into the kitchen, and I was watching it over the counter, from the kitchen.
Right.
And I kept seeing names popping up, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This title sequence is still going on. And I actually paused the movie to see where it was minute-wise in the movie, and it was at like 8.5 minutes at that point. And I was like, this has got to be the longest opening sequence that I've ever seen in any movie.
I don't think it took anything away from it, though.
No, it's just for most movies, you don't see something lead up that long. Like, you've got a lot of newer movies now where you get a long scene, and then like with today's movie, Halloween Kills, you don't see the title of Halloween Kills until after you've seen this long 15-20 minute scene, and then it's like, oh, it's Halloween Kills. This was like credits, build up, and
credits,
all this stuff, and then
a little bit of scene.
Yeah,
credit, a little bit of scene, some more credit, a little bit of scene, and it kind of stretched it out, and it just kind of took me off the beginning a little bit, because it made me think of the credits.
Right.
Because I was like, how much more of this is going to happen? I'm like, we're already almost 10 minutes into this, and we're still getting people's names up on the screen.
I'll watch it later podcast. The podcast where we talk about the opening credits.
I mean, it is a part of this movie, the style. I mean, think about going back to The Thing, how long it takes the movie to get going. It's the same thing.
Well,
This was longer. At least it felt longer based off of what they were showing. But The Thing is the same way, where it's like it's a long lead up.
The beginning scene, the helicopter and the dog. I fucking love that.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it feels like this is a style of John Carpenter that he employs, where he kind of does these quick shots to get you into the movie. I think They Live is almost the same way, where it's like, you get little montages at the beginning during the credit sequence to kind of catch you up into a story that you didn't know you were in the middle of.
Well, that's what I liked about it. If we're going to continue to talk about the opening, I liked that. I liked the setup. The setup was short. To me, it was short and sweet. Like, okay, this is what these guys are doing. This is why he's got to get these people to help him. And boom, bam. They got to fucking, got to get all these people into this church. I get it. I understand.
No, and that was really cool. And honestly, like I said, I love Donald Pleasance. Like, the idea of this movie is great. I think what gets me having him in this movie is knowing how much he hated filming the first Halloween movie.
Really?
He hated it.
Oh, yeah, because he thought he was a better actor and a more distinguished actor.
He didn't like the dialogue. Yeah. He didn't like the pacing. At one point, there is a scene in Halloween, the very first 1978 Halloween, where he's sitting in the car with the nurse, and Michael's on top of the car and hits the glass. He was drunk during that entire filming. Like, he had bottles of wine. And this is documented. Like, he was drunk. They barely got him to the set. He turned on the charm, did his lines. You can almost tell there's something off about how he's delivering everything. And then the second it was done, he went back to his trailer.
Well, there is a way.
Hated everything.
I mean, just off topic, when he gets out of the car and he walks, he walks towards the gate. You can tell he's like kind of stumbling.
Oh yeah, he barely made it.
But if you don't know anything about it, I mean, later on they reveal that he was drinking and hated this movie.
Yeah,
but you see it now that you know about it. So
right, and now you'll go back and revisit it, and you're like, oh, okay, I see it. But it surprised me to see him revisit a property with John Carpenter, knowing his history with that original movie. So it was kind of neat seeing him back. Like, okay, he mended those fences, whatever, and now he's in this movie as the guy who gets the band together. You know what I mean?
Right. I didn't think his presence was all that important in this film. He could have been cut out completely, and I think we would have still gotten the same result.
He did well. I mean, he gets them together. I think he's one of those priests that knows the secret of what's down there and knows why they're guarding it, but is very taken aback by Victor Wong's explanation of heaven and hell, or evil and good, and things like that. And because there's at one point where he's questioning why the Vatican or whoever initially started guarding this green ooze, why they lied about why it's there or what it is. And it's just because, and it comes down to, especially with religion and just any society, is that you have to make up explanations of things you don't understand. So at the time, maybe they just didn't understand the science behind it, and that's why these quantum physicists are applying the science to what this is doing. They're measuring earthquakes and all the particles in the air and stuff like that. So that's where the science comes in, but it's providing an explanation to Donald Pleasance's character that he can't come to grips with. And so he's still in the vein of, no, it's evil and it's good. Yeah, there's no science behind this. This is it.
I get it. I was just saying, I could have, if you just put a bunch of these guys in a room and started killing them off because of some green news, I would have been okay.
Right.
We would have got the same movie. Also, I have to talk about this. Victor Wong, great in Three Ninjas. That's all I want.
He's great
say.
in everything.
I just love Three Ninjas. Rocky, Colt, Tum Tum, all day, every day. You ever seen Three Ninjas, Scott?
No.
Oh. Have you seen it?
No, I hate you.
Oh, yes.
Well, if you make us watch this movie, I'll quit this podcast.
No, you won't. All right.
For me, I watched some of the behind-the-scenes stuff after watching this movie.
I should have watched
I was way into... I really did enjoy this movie a lot more than I think I expected. And I don't know why, because I love John Carpenter movies. I haven't watched one... Okay, hold on. Ghost of Mars. Fuck that movie.
I like that movie. I saw it in theaters.
Of course
I've never revisited it, though.
And that might be one of those things where I have to go back and maybe appreciate it differently. But
I could watch Ghost of Mars and probably hate it now, but I remember seeing it as a kid, and I was like, Ice Cube, he's doing things on Mars.
Yeah, that's why. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I do enjoy John Carpenter movies. So I went in very excited to watch this movie. It wasn't one of those like, okay, I've got to watch this movie. No, I wanted to watch this movie, and I was excited that I could bring it to here so we could actually watch it together and talk about it. I like a lot of, like I said, the practical portions of it. I was watching the behind the scenes, and they were telling how they made. So at the end, after all the craziness and all the chaos and all the fun, there's a scene where the main chick that gets infected by Satan or whatever,
I was so
her
bummed.
face is getting all melty and she's getting gross. Like, it's really awesome. It reminded me of American Werewolf in London, where the main guy's friend gets killed, and throughout the movie, you know, his ghost or whatever is haunting the guy, but in a fun way. And it starts off where, you know, the guy's got a gash in his face, and then maybe later on he's a little bit more decayed. And then as the movie goes on, he's basically decaying as the movie goes on. This is what I felt with this chick. Like, she gets infected, and then slowly throughout the movie, her face is starting to melt off. You know, she's getting gross, and, you know, she's really gnarly. Like, the evil is infecting her and destroying her body from inside out.
Well, I like that she had the bruise, and then the bruise turned into like a Nazi symbol, and then but it affected.
It was the Blue Oyster Cult.
Was it?
Yep.
Oh,
The symbol for Blue Oyster Cult.
are you sure Blue Oyster Cult didn't get the symbol from this movie?
That's what I'm saying is that's probably where they got it from.
Oh, okay. But I like that it infected people in different ways. Like, she got the bruise that turned her into the weird gelatinous blob thing, and then like somebody else would get infected and become like a roach creature. Yeah. So
well, then like the black guy like stabs himself in the neck with something and bleeds out, and everyone's freaking out and they all run away. And then like next scene, he's got like a bandage on and he's fine, and he's, you know, infected, and they're all trying to, you know, bring Satan over. But the really cool practical part that I really did enjoy knowing how they did it was, there's the scene where she's reaching out, and basically, you know, the light's coming through the window, and then you see the demon claw about to come out. Do you know how they film that? By taking a frame and sticking it on the ground and filling it with liquid mercury.
Yeah.
whoa,
Out of some lamps. Like, they emptied all the lamps and put the mercury. I can't even say it. Shit.
Mercury with Allison Cooper.
God. And then
why did I say that?
fucking dumb. And then they filmed it in reverse, so they, you know, pulled the hand down to make it look like it was coming out. I like that approach to filmmaking. I think that's what made me appreciate this movie a lot more. If they made it now, it would have been all special effects and not very, you know, practical, and just I don't know. I love
the campy
stuff.
special effects,
right?
Man. I mean, that's and honestly, that's where, you know, your horror movies always went, was the practical. You know, they built puppets, they built certain things to create the scene, and it was all like out of made material. You know, they didn't put a CGI into it. You know, they've used zombies and covered people in toilet paper, you know, whatever. That's what I like about kind of the campiness of like horror movies,
right,
and using those type of practical effects. And
I loved and it's weird to say this now in 2021. I loved how they didn't give a fuck in the 80s. The dialogue was so crazy. There's one part where the Asian dude who was also in Big Trouble in Little China, he looks at the other woman who is clearly Asian. He goes, "You know what? Sometimes you almost look Asian." And I'm just
I know.
Wow, like you couldn't say that now. And it's like
I was
part
thinking
of it's
the
like
same
that's
thing.
funny.
Oh, wait till we get to the second movie.
But no, I agree with you. But it was an Asian person saying that to another Asian person,
right?
So I don't know if it would have been that bad.
But he said it in such a way she was actually offended by it.
But I did cringe.
Yeah, and it's like I hate kind of viewing things in the same way I would view something made now and applying it to, you know, a movie from the 1980s.
You can just tell we're being reprogrammed. Like,
yeah, well, yeah, because I was like, ooh, you can't say that.
Today's wokeism. You know, you take it back to the old movies that you watch, and you say, oh man, we never would have gotten away with that today.
Yeah, so you just kind of start to think, oh man, they got away with a lot of things back in the day. I mean, it goes back. I would watch right now. You ever see the Kentucky Fried Movie?
I have seen it, but I don't remember it.
If you want complete just craziness and racism, that's the movie to watch.
And we promote that. If you want to watch racism,
yes.
I'm just joking.
We're
clearly,
gonna pause this. But no, I mean, it's just it just shows a different time that the dialogue was different, and it is campy. I mean, a lot of the dialogue is very campy, and it reminds me of a horror version of Big Trouble in Little China. Like it's
Yes,
very
I
campy.
completely agree.
And then that's what I love. I loved it.
That is the entire time I was watching this. That's all I could think of was the first time I watched Big Trouble in Little China. I was like, this is almost the exact same movie, except not. You know what I mean? Like
it's just got that feel to it.
It got crazier and crazier and crazier, and then it was just boop. So yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said to the point where it's going to make a boring podcast because me and you are on the exact same page, but.
Scott hated it. So
yeah, that's true. So he needs. Yeah,
I wouldn't say that I hated it. I could. This is a film that I could probably take or leave. If I'm putting this in the pile, like we're putting horror movies on the pile,
right.
In the table, and we're saying, hey, I'm throwing this one in. I'm throwing Halloween. I'm throwing Nightmare. I'm throwing Friday the 13th. This is probably not a movie that's going to make my Halloween pile or my horror movie pile. I have kind of there's a 3-tier system that I kind of have in my brain for horror movies. There's the A tier, the B tier, and the C tier. This is probably a B tier movie, maybe a lower B tier movie for me. I'm glad I got to watch it. It's John Carpenter, but it's not one of those movies that I'm bringing to the table and saying this is going to be a yearly watch for me.
But no one's saying that. I mean, you trying to put all these horror movies on the same
no,
pedestal,
but you have to understand
like,
that
nope.
I'm not the guy that you guys are. I'm not the movie guy.
We know.
I watch. I don't watch horror movies year round. Horror movies for me, it's kind of a seasonal thing. I watch them in October. Maybe start them late September, and then usually once Halloween's done, I'm done watching horror movies unless there's something that comes out in a movie theater when they release it in February.
January for Scream.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you going to go see Scream?
I will go watch that.
Are you sure it's January?
Yeah, I'll go watch it because it's Scream, and I do like that franchise. But again, that's how I take horror movies. It's kind of a seasonal thing for me. And when I look at a horror movie, as where I kind of look with any movie, is what's the rewatchability for me? Like, is this something that I'm going to pull off the shelf and be like, yeah, hey, everybody come over, we're watching horror movies. We're going to watch The Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, I could see that because for me, I do watch horror movies all the time. Like, I'll watch them any time of the year. If you're looking at it in the lens of you're consolidating everything into 1 month and you have a finite amount of time, I can see where
that's where
this
I'm
would
going.
fall by the wayside. Yeah. Yes, I get that. I mean,
that's where I'm going with it.
Am I going to go and watch this every other month? Probably not. I mean, I do want to look into it a little bit more. I do, like I said, want to watch In the Mouth of Madness. I mean, it makes me appreciate a lot of the John Carpenter stuff. It really does. And I want to go back and, revisit some of the stuff that either I haven't seen in a long time or, like with the other one, I haven't seen. So I would like to do that.
And I'm not saying this is a bad movie by any means. It's just, it's one of those where, again, you're coming from your average dude watching horror movies,
right?
I'm looking for the slasher flicks. I'm looking for something that's maybe a little more
a slasher flick last week that you hated. So,
it's a little more, and it's just a little more on the upside where I don't have to think too much. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to overthink, and that's what horror movies do today.
Yeah,
they try to make you overthink shit, dude, and I don't want to do that.
That was
man.
from the 80s. What are you?
No, I said that's what they do today. Like the movies like Midsommar and Hereditary, things like that. They want you to overanalyze and overthink everything, and I don't want to do that, man. I want to go in, and I want to just have fun watching a Halloween movie or a horror movie. Make it. It doesn't need to be a 2-hour movie. Hell, make it an hour movie as long as you get to the points and I can see some gore and I can see some cool scenes. That's me. I mean, that's what I want out of a horror movie. But like I said, it's not that I'm saying that it's a bad movie. I'm just saying there's other movies that I'm going to gravitate towards before I get to this movie.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I do have my if I'm going to do it the same way you did, I do have my top tier horror movies that I'll revisit literally every year. But yeah, I mean, I think this one for me is going to be one of those ones I watch a lot.
I feel like
I really do.
I just feel like when you do that, you box these films and then no one can ever penetrate that. You know what I mean? But
I think for reference, I think we need to understand that you guys watch a lot of movies. I don't. So
I'm not even
when
talking
I
yet.
watch a movie, that movie gets slated into a time slot that I may not have a lot of time for. So I may be a lot pickier on the movies that I choose to watch because I don't want to waste my time watching a movie that I may not like. So there's a lot of things that I won't. Like, I probably would have never picked this movie up and said, well, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch this movie if somebody didn't tell me to watch it.
That's right. We tell you what to do. Anyway, no, but what I'm saying is that when you box the movies that Jordan and you were talking about into this, like, well, am I going to watch it during October? And I get what you're saying. You're not going to be able to visit a lot of film. And I get that that's not your thing. I get that. But what I'm saying is I would put this in a pile of great horror films, like something I would go see in the theater, go to the Alamo for, the Majestic, whatever you want to call it, and watch it with a bunch of people. I would love to see this at the New Bev or at the Egyptian or something with a huge crowd, like on a midnight showing. I think that this movie does have a place, kind of like The Thing. I think it's a good horror film. It's like, I think that other horror films probably watch this to get ideas for.
But you were saying at the beginning, you said that a lot of things kind of creeped you out and kind of scared you about this movie.
Well, yeah,
there was nothing in this movie that scared me, but that's where I'm coming from.
That could be the desensitized nature.
It's very possible.
A lot of desensitization.
Desensitization of life.
There's a lot of that.
Allison Cooper.
There's a lot of.
I was going to say the whole show.
Desensitizing. Well, I guess we know what the name of the show is going to be. There's a lot of desensitizing when it comes to watching horror movies now and then. I wasn't saying I was scared in any way. I said it made me feel uneasy. Like, it reminded me of that. The movie that scares me the most in this entire universe is Mothman Prophecies, and it's not a scary movie. But when you fucking hear Indrid Cold start talking on the other end of that phone, it just takes me to a place that is like not good. And I think that's the same thing with this movie. It's like when you hear that like staticky voice from nowhere, it just didn't make me feel good.
That part I did think was kind of cool. I like that whole, telecommunication over the analog symbol type thing. I did enjoy it. Like I said, there's a lot of things I enjoyed about this movie. I just don't know if it's, again, like I would just put it up there in my top tier movies. Not saying it was a bad movie, and again, and I think we've had this discussion where I've told you this before, is I really do think I am very desensitized to horror movies.
Yeah,
because
so do
I watch a lot of things and I'm just sitting there like, okay. Yeah, I mean, yep, been there, done that, seen it. Give me something I haven't seen before.
Well, I'm sure I'll get a lot of flack from people on this one, but I'm the type that I didn't like The Exorcist. I just didn't.
I didn't either.
I don't see the point of it. I don't see the draw. I understand maybe for the time, and it did set things in motion to go a certain route, but I was never into it.
When did you watch The Exorcist?
I think the first time I may have seen it, I was in my early teens.
Okay.
And then and then I revisited later, hearing so much about that it was supposed to be a thing. So probably maybe in my 20s when I was working for the video store and I was kind of binge watching things.
I didn't watch Exorcist till I worked at a video store, and I always thought it was long and boring. I get why people like it, but I think you had to be
Catholic,
caught up with that too. But I think you had to be caught up with the hype in order to think it's the scariest movie ever made.
And that's where I was. When I saw it, I was probably in my 20s.
Yeah.
Because I never wanted to sit down and watch this movie because it always kind of mentally it creeped me out. And I was like, I'm never going to watch this movie. Like, I'll never sit down and watch it. And then one day I said, I'm going to watch this movie. And I sat down, watched it, and I thought to myself, that's it?
Yeah.
That's it?
Okay.
That's what I was avoiding this whole time was watching this movie.
And I think
there was nothing there.
I think a lot of these horror movies, it depends on when you watch them, and it depends on how maybe you reacted to them at the time. Like the one horror movie that I still just don't like to watch, and it is the most saccharine horror movie in the world right now, is Poltergeist. I cannot watch that first Poltergeist movie.
I love that movie.
Great. I can't watch it. And it's a Steven Spielberg movie, and it's Tobe Hooper, and it's, if you look at it now, it's cheesy. It's really not that scary. You get the big white, probably on wires, ghosty thing coming through the door. I can't watch that movie. I don't like the idea of sitting in front of a static television and that little girl's talking. No, thank you. I will not watch that movie. But if you look at it like, if Scott were to watch it now, he'd be like, why are you scared of this movie?
Right.
I get that. For me, with The Exorcist, I think I revisited it too late and just didn't care because I had seen 1,000 other things that were more, visceral and crazy in my head that I'm sitting there going, okay, so she throws up. Who cares? Her head turns. Don't care. I mean, even today we watched Halloween Kills, and I'm sitting there watching all these things happen with a smile on my face, ready to fist pump the air, and thinking, do I have a problem? Like,
yeah, I mean,
I'm cheering for the shark at this point. Like, it was just one of those things. So, like, this movie here, I liked the idea, like I said, of blending the science with the religion and the mythos of Satan versus, heaven and hell. And
right.
I liked that approach of it. I don't know how, like, it was like saying, okay, Exorcist was definitely a demon and a devil and all this stuff. This was saying, well, the devil is not what you think it is. Yes, at the end you got the little claw coming through, but it's more like, hey, there's another dimension, and that's coming from this side. It's bringing darkness, we're bringing light, and I liked that approach to it, and that's why I like this movie.
I totally agree. Anything that has to do with heaven and hell, I'm a huge stand for. So I'll always rate that stuff higher than normal because I think the idea of heaven and hell is amazing. I don't necessarily believe in it. I'm just saying I think the idea, and there's different interpretations. I like all that stuff.
Well, and I think that comes to my upbringing where I didn't really grow up in a religious household. So, you got a lot of people who are, Catholic, Christian, things like that would see The Exorcist as a very impactful movie because this is stuff they believe in.
I don't know, man. I grew up in a Catholic household, and we went to church every Sunday. Of course, probably a lot against my will. But, when I saw that movie, it wasn't anything that made me uncomfortable. It wasn't any, I don't know, maybe I just again detached from a lot of that stuff.
Could be. Yeah.
You are a robot person, so
kind of. really.
So anyways, let's get to it. We got a lot to talk about today. So what did you give it?
I'm gonna give this one, I think, a 3.5. Like, it's not like the top tier horror movies. I did really, really, really like it. I will rewatch it. I want to go back and look at some of the behind the scenes stuff. Go through all the stuff with Shout Factory that I've got on the disc.
What was your score again?
3.5.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Like, I enjoyed it.
That's mine as well. 3.5. I think there were some pacing issues, but I feel like that's a John Carpenter thing, but he doesn't get a pass. It's once again made me uneasy. There was a jump scare at the end that got me. The creepy broadcast signal, it was all good. I would definitely recommend it. I'd definitely go to the theater and see it. I'd give this multiple viewings. I plan on watching it again, this year. So 3.5 for me as well.
Yeah, I would definitely go to a theater and see this. Like, if they showed it like at one of those, like, that, hey, every week we're doing a different horror movie, I want to see it on a big screen. It's pretty cool.
Same.
And that jump scare did get me too. I'm not gonna lie, like, not a lot in this movie just scared me. That got me, and it was just like, fuck. I wasn't
and it's unfortunate that we had to wait till literally the very end to get that scare, which it got me too. It wasn't like oh my god, I just spilled my drink all over my lap, but it makes you jump inside, because of how it is presented and how it's filmed in the movie.
Real quick, I'm not gonna lie, in that scene right there, after he gets the jump scare and then he's just laying there before he gets up to go touch the mirror. The way his neck looked, he's shirtless in bed and he's sweating and it's gross. I thought something was going to happen because the way his neck, it almost looked like a prosthetic neck.
I thought you were.
I don't know. I was really turned on. He was
Jordan's
shirtless.
like, I was rubbing my nips.
He was sweaty. It was everything I wanted. 4 stars. No, it was just, it just, I don't know, something about the way he was turned. It just looked weird to me with his porn stash. And
he probably just got done filming a porn.
Most likely.
Yeah, he's all greasy and sweaty.
Okay, what'd you give it, Scott?
For me, it was 2.5. I mean, it's kind of middle of the road, and I don't think 2.5 is. It probably sounds a lot worse than what it is, but if I'm going on that 1 to 5 on horror flicks, it's probably middle ground, middle of the road.
Okay.
Oh man, I can't wait to rate Phantasm.
So the other movie that we decided to watch is that was given to us by the random generator, the beep boop bop boop 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 boop, was Phantasm.
Phantasm, the delusion of a disordered mind, a phantom, a spirit, a ghost. For nearly 4 decades it has been contained, but evil always has a way of breaking free.
Tommy's gone. It's hard to believe. It was a good idea not to let your little brother come to the funeral.
Yeah, I don't like this place.
Something weird is going on up there.
The funeral is about to begin, sir.
Yeah. So this movie is held in high regard. You were Angus Scrim, the ball, apparently this is a huge Halloween horror movie thing, and I watched it late at night. I was actually organizing this room, cleaning it up for you guys, and I had to stop because I was so interested. It had a bunch of my favorite elements about a horror movie: kid protagonist running away from the big scary guy, jump scare galore. It checked all the boxes for me. I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I don't think you guys did, so I'd love to hear why.
I was just like, I'm looking at Scott. I was like, who wants to destroy this first?
Well, who
wants to destroy this first, guys? We're gonna reinvent
I
the
joke.
horror
I'm not
genre.
gonna destroy it. But
here's my take on it. So at some point I've seen a Phantasm. I don't know which one it was, and I can't say that I literally sat down and watched it from front to back. I don't know if it was like the third or the fourth or something along that lines. I don't remember seeing the second one, which is probably, everybody says it's the best. Phantasm is marketed as the ball with the blades.
Mm-hmm.
You get that one cool scene.
You get one scene and then one more after that,
where you're seeing it through the eyes of the ball. And this is one of those where I think the buildup of it is more that you haven't seen it. I think you are thinking that it is going to be something that it's not.
The expectation was higher than what the product delivered
Right.
for me. I actually fell asleep. I pulled a Scott. I watched this. I didn't even watch it late. I threw it on. I'm like, I'm going to watch this movie finally. I got bored. The dialogue is dry and weird. Like it feels like
it's
this
campy.
It's a kid talking to his fucking uncle. What did you want?
It's just, it felt like a student film. Like it was really weird. Like the pacing threw me off, where it looked like I couldn't tell for a moment if this was a flashback scene or part of what's happening now. Just the way they filmed it. And then there's this scene where the kid's talking to like some, gypsy tarot card reader and her granddaughter, and then the granddaughter goes off to the funeral home, and then the scream happens, and that's it. Like, you didn't even show that. Like, yes, like this movie was built up so much in my head because I have seen the second one, that when I watched this, I was bored. And I hate saying that because I wanted to like this. I really did, because Phantasm is another one of those properties where it's like you just, like you said, you know the ball, you identify with it. This is another one where we blend horror and science when you kind of find out what the whole big twisty thing at the end is and what's going on. It was weird. Like, it felt weird. And I wasn't scared. I wasn't there was no uneasiness to my viewing. Like I said, I got bored. I fell asleep. I woke up. I'm like, something's happening. I didn't like any of the characters except for the ice cream man.
He was awesome.
And he's in the second one.
Yes, because the second one is like Evil Dead, whereas he made two.
It's 8 years later.
Yeah,
exactly the same film.
But I think maybe that's part of it. It's like I saw one that they ramped up the use of those spheres, the horror.
I think
and the scariness.
that's what they marketed. When they marketed this movie, because I think everything you see when it comes to commercials for Phantasm, or
it's the ball.
It's the ball.
Well, Aaron's got the box set that comes with an actual ball with it. Like, they are pushing hard for this fucking silver ball. And in the first movie, you get one scene where it lodges into Angus Scrimm's head, and it's like, ooh, gross. And then I think there's one more where it's kind of going around in the funeral home, and then that's it. Like, there's no point to it.
Yeah,
I don't know. It threw me off to hate this.
Concept-wise, I mean, I'm putting it because the character. It's the character in the ball. It's the tall man and the ball. This mortician and his thing with the caskets and stuff. I'm putting it in that same category, I guess, as a Michael Myers, a Jason Voorhees, a Freddy Krueger.
He's very identifiable.
A character type thing, because there's so many of these movies that they made with this guy So I'm waiting to see something interesting, and I don't think it just ever got to that point. There's some cool stuff in this movie. You get the gore when the ball and it drills into his head. The guy falls down. He pisses himself all over the floor. That's probably the first time I've ever seen a horror movie where somebody pissed themselves. And I thought to myself, I was like, wow, that's piss. That's piss on the floor.
He just pissed himself.
You thought he actually pissed himself.
They left it in. They're just like, oh man, he fell down hard.
No, I'm just saying
himself.
It's like when he fell down and like, because you can see the piss coming out, and the kid looks at it and he gives that ugh looking face.
Right.
And I was like, well, I think that's the first time I've seen anybody piss themselves in a horror movie.
Yeah, they really ramped up the campiness of this, and they made weird cuts where it's like, you know, at the beginning they're like, oh, did you hear so and so died? Yeah, that sucks. Blah blah blah. Let's go in, and then they go in, and then they're like, oh, this sucks, and then all of a sudden Angus Scrimm's like, the funeral's about to start, sir. And then they cut away, and his face is like, he looks very put out, and they cut, and I'm like, I texted Aaron, I'm like, the pacing just feels weird. Like,
I did think the pacing felt weird, but I didn't hate it for the same reason you guys did. Like, I didn't hate.
I'm not saying I hate.
No,
this
I'm
movie.
just
There's
saying
a lot of hate would be a strong word. I just
expectation versus reality.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's what it boils down to for us.
I guess.
In the long run,
my problem was it wasn't the pacing or anything. There wasn't. I didn't really have a problem. I thought the kid was good. He played like it was believable. He was scared of this guy, and you know they try killing him and it doesn't work. So they they're trying to they figure out how to stop him, and they're going. I don't know, man. It felt very Monster Squad, or it just was.
See, that Monster Squad is a better movie involving kids in horror, and that's not even the greatest movie. Like, that's a movie that I've built in my head as one of the greatest movies because I was a kid when I saw it. I watch it now and it's very campy. I know. I'm just
okay.
But I get the kid stuff.
But that's you're saying. I watch this and it's campy. That's what Phantasm is. It's a very campy film. It's relying on its campiness, and that's what's made it to 5 of these things. I don't
Chucky
think
has like 12
I don't
movies.
think it was supposed to be good. You know what I mean? I think it was supposed to be exactly what it was: weird and not frightening. I mean, it was maybe in the 70s or whatever when it came out. It was supposed to be frightening, but it was
1979.
Yeah, it was. It was supposed to be frightening, supposed to be weird, and I could see it being weird back then when you're waking up in the middle of, your room and you're in a graveyard and these zombies come out and grab you. Like, I get it. It felt very entertaining to me. I really
But see,
enjoyed
we've
watching
had
it.
movies where they've done campy and done it better than this. Like you said, Evil Dead. Evil Dead is a campy horror movie that honestly is a much better movie when you want to use the campiness to tell the story. Like, the dialogue is bad. The visuals are, subpar because it's very low budget. This movie just the dialogue was very clunky. The pacing was off. Like,
It was a kid. He was like, "What the fuck?" He said, "What the fuck?"
That's great. Like, that's
I just
fine.
didn't think the dialogue was
I just
that
like
bad.
it's weird. Like, you get
The dialogue was weird. Like, it was like weirdly placed,
how?
almost like it was like a lot of one-liners.
Yeah. Like I said, I think they cut.
And this is another
parts
movie
out.
that they say a lot of things that, I mean, and I'm, when he talks about the kid down the street, the mentally challenged kid,
Oh my
but
God.
use your head. I mean, he uses, what you would use in 1979. I mean, it's
Waterhead.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird
Retard.
things in this movie, and a lot of like
Aaron.
kind of like one-liners placed in this movie that make it almost throws you off a little bit because you hear something and you kind of turn to it like okay, that was weird. That was just kind of a weird place. The thing with the grave robbing and him like pulling the bodies out, and making them Jawas. And
I thought the same thing the whole time.
Which is weird. So I did look that up.
That is great.
And apparently Star Wars had not come out yet because they were filming this at the same time as Star Wars.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was all kind of coincidental.
Wait, you said it's 79.
This may have released in 79, but they
okay.
filmed it probably well before that.
Yeah, so they were actually filming this. I guess it took a lot longer to film. They were filming this at the same time. Like, I actually think they started filming this before and using that same thing while Star Wars was filming during that whole period, and using this kind of the same Jawa sheets with the hoods, and it was just super weird. I kind of took me off a little bit thinking the same thing, and then I had to go look back.
I thought they
to
were
see.
giant flies.
Well, no, what had happened was...
That was his finger.
Yeah, so like the finger gets cut off of the tall man, and then when the kid goes to show... They were going to go show the ice cream man dude. It turned into like some big weird bug thing, like a fly. And then that's how it gets him on board. Like, oh, yeah, let's go do it. And then I guess they get attacked by their friend who has now been turned into a midget Jawa character.
Right.
And it's like I said, it took a weird turn for me because I guess I just don't remember enough of the second one to realize what this premise was. It's not even like
He was turning the undead into slaves?
He was turning the undead into midget slaves and transporting them back to his own planet, like Poochie from fucking The Simpsons. And Poochie went away to his own planet, and it was so weird. Like, there was this weird doorway, and the kid gets a glimpse to this really hot planet with Jawas, and I'm just like, oh, this is what the twist was? Like, it just threw me off, and it makes sense why the balls were mechanical and crazy.
Well, and again, maybe in 1979 when this came out, maybe this scared people. And you go back and you watch a film that's, 30 plus years old, it's got to be different, man. It feels different. You know what I mean? It's hard to say that I can feel the same thing that an audience in 1979 is going to feel about this movie.
Maybe I'm just fucked up.
And I will put my head in that space where, I want to say, like, hey, I'm going to look at it from a view of, like, maybe when it was, like, 1979, how people would have seen this movie. And I can appreciate that.
Well, and it's how I viewed Once Upon a Time in the West. I have to think, okay, yes, I have seen a lot of Westerns that I enjoyed a lot more than this movie, but at the time, these things were few and far between. We weren't getting inundated with 1,000 things. A movie was, once a year, once every couple years, and the grandiose nature of it may have wowed audiences a lot more, and that's maybe why everyone enjoys it a lot more than I could. This movie, even for 79 for me, just feels like it wouldn't be that great. Well, because even then, because you're right, at the time, 79, horror movies weren't big. They had kind of been dwindling. I mean, even when Halloween, the original, was getting filmed, you couldn't market that movie. And they were playing small theaters in random small towns just to get word of mouth. Like, you couldn't sell that movie, and now it's like one of the biggest franchises. Horror movies, film, all that stuff was kind of going by the wayside, and it wasn't until the 80s and the revival of horror, started really pushing the boundaries. But I don't know, like, this movie just really feels off for me, and maybe I need to rewatch it again. I'm willing to do so. I want to maybe watch the second one again.
I definitely
want
to
see what the differences are, but
I watched the second one
right.
After watching after watching this movie, I go on and I do, the whole YouTube thing where I start looking at people's reviews because I'm interested to hear what other people say about this movie. And it's weird because people jerk to this movie.
Yeah.
And
the first good movie.
Yes. So they jerk off this movie. And
as they should.
So one of the guys said, he goes, it's kind of left at this cliffhanger. The second movie explains everything and it's a much better movie. So I buckled down. I strapped up, my boots, and I put the second movie on.
It's like 2 a.m.
and it didn't do shit.
Right, like it didn't give you the explanations you wanted.
So I don't believe you at all.
It just didn't do it, man.
It's just like with Halloween where they made the second movie and they're like, oh, Michael Myers was her brother the whole long. Like, sometimes things don't explain the things you want, and they don't really make things better. And that's my thing. I think maybe Phantasm 2 maybe have upped the gore factor or the all the chills and whatever, but as far as the first one goes, like, it does bum me out, honestly, that I didn't enjoy it like I thought I would.
Kind of the same.
And it is one of those expectations versus reality situations for me.
What did you give it?
For me, a 1.5. Like, I'll rewatch it just to see if my taste of this movie, but honestly, I mean, this is great because this was one of our random movies, so it's not like I don't feel like I'm attacking a choice of yours or a choice of Scott's or vice versa.
I just never feel like that because these are all
and I shouldn't. But there are sometimes you do look at it like, this okay, every movie you've yeah.
And I'm glad I got to see this movie because it is on that list of movies that is probably, I'd put it in that upper B tier as far as subject matter and the movies itself, because there was 5 movies. So I mean, there was a lot of Phantasm and the ball and the whole thing. You know, I mean, that's how it was marketed. So I'm glad I got to see this movie.
Well, is it
going to make me go watch all the other 4? Probably not.
I'll stop at 2. I won't go further.
But you got to 2. So.
Because I got suckered in.
I was going to say,
yeah, but I heard everything past that. It just like it's like with the Chucky movies, or you know, like what was it, Puppet Master and things like that. They just start to go off the rails in a way that just it doesn't even make sense.
This is where I would put this movie. I'd put this movie with the Puppet Masters. You know, the Hellraisers, the things that I consider probably the B tier,
right?
The B tier of horror. You know, the horror movie genre.
Right, because, I mean, I think even with Hellraiser, that was one of those franchises where I remember seeing the 3rd one, which is admittedly not the best movie in the world, but it has an actress in it that I remember from watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine, so, like, I identified with that character just because I knew her. I go back and I watch the other ones, and admittedly, I don't like the first one as much as I like the second one. And it's just one of those things where everyone lauds the first one being such a great movie. And, you know, Clive Barker directed it. He wrote it. He did all this stuff. We might have to watch them.
Never seen any of them.
But I enjoyed the second one more than the first.
Never seen any of them.
And this is where Phantasm comes in, where it's like I think I enjoyed the second one more than the first. It could just be because I have memories of it more than this. But after watching this, I mean, I didn't see the appeal.
I've seen bits and pieces of Hellraiser.
Right.
I've never sat down and actually watched the entire movie.
I mean, the first one,
and I know for
someone
who says, "Oh, I love the horror genre," and people are going to be like, "You're an asshole because you haven't watched these movies." You know, I mean, it is what it is.
So there's so much out there, though. I mean, you can't sit there and go, "You didn't see Hellraiser. You're not a real horror fan." It's like,
right.
Fuck you. There's an entire catalog of movies that I guarantee you've never seen. Horror fan number 5.
I walked past the guy who played Pinhead at horror.
Doug Bradley, him and his
Horror
mask.
Con or whatever the hell
only
we went
one on the panels that didn't want to not mask up.
So what'd you give it?
It's a 2.
Okay.
For me, it's a 2.
So, Jordan gave it a lower score than you.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised about that.
I didn't, like I said, I didn't hate it because there was a lot of things that are, it's redeeming for the horror genre. There was some good gore. There was some funny scenes. There was, you know, the thing with the tall man. It has character.
It just
was a little off the mark.
I read that they intentionally put him in like platforms to make him slightly taller, and clothing that was slightly small, so he always felt like he was just too big for everything. And there was that one scene where he is walking down the street and you see the ice cream dude right there, and he's just lumbering like a Sasquatch, and then he stops and he just turns, and it's like, for him as a character, I would have loved to see him in a better version of this movie.
Yeah.
Because his character is very... It's just
potential.
As a person,
so much
he's
potential.
Creepy looking.
Except this movie's really good, so
fuck you. 1.5.
It's a 3.5 for me.
Wow.
I thought it was very good.
Wow.
I enjoyed it. I'll watch it again. I'll see it in the theaters. I liked it a lot. I liked the tall man. I think he's a cool character. He ranks up there. I enjoyed the storytelling. I enjoyed it all. I enjoyed the funeral parlor and how creepy it was, and like the metal things that you put your hands on and get shocked. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, for the doorway.
Yeah. So I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Do you think
I'm
your
disappointed.
score?
Well, I didn't check anything.
No.
That has to do with this.
No, I'm thinking, does your score reflect your? I'm seeing a pattern with you, and it's not a bad thing. Where I think.
What?
No, I'm just saying, like, maybe you identify.
Aaron, we'd like to talk right now.
No,
we'd like to have a conversation about your patterns.
It's a fucking intervention.
I'm interested to hear.
No. I think you, as a moviegoer, cinephile, whatever you want to classify how you view things, gravitate more towards stories where the kid is a protagonist.
I do like kid protagonists.
I don't know if maybe it's you not getting into these things until later in life, because you even said that he wasn't allowed to watch in a way where you weren't allowed to do these things and experience these things, that maybe now you're identifying with the kid protagonist. Like,
I think
you can
so,
see yourself
because
being that character.
I always like kid protagonists more than adult protagonists, but it's not. It's mostly because they're so unlikely, and it's like how do they get out of this situation? Whereas an adult can just be like, and I know we'll get to Halloween, but an adult can just go get a gun and then come back and stop this. But a kid has to use his imagination.
This kid had a gun in this movie. He didn't stop any of it.
I know, but I'm just I'm just saying. I'm saying like you're more practical as an adult. I think it's more fantastical when you're a kid. So I think. I like that. I like.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that that's influencing your score. I've noticed that in some of the things that we have talked about. Not even just on the show. Like in the past, where you like, I think you identify with those characters a little bit more, only because like you just
like I love it. It is awesome, and I think. And I've read the book. I've watched all the movies. I like them all. I like both versions. I like the adult version. I like the kid
I was wondering
story.
like what did you identify? Because for me, I liked the kid version of that too. Because you're right. Everyone has that moment when you're a kid where you're scared about something and you want to think, okay, how am I going to get out of that situation? And honestly, it's part of why I don't like I said, Poltergeist. The idea that those kids going through some shit, like it just, it gets to me growing up watching some of these horror movies. Whereas, as an adult, it's like you sit there and you cheer for their death, like fuck, you die. With the kids, it's like, okay, I don't want this kid something bad to happen, and I can get that.
Not even that. It's more like, oh, these kids are put in this fantastical situation. How are they going to get out of it? And it's like they have.
That's why I like Monster Squad.
Yeah, that's why. So I'm sticking with my 3.5. F you guys.
I'm not saying no. You score how you want. I'm thinking that if this movie didn't have that kid in that role, and it was just the two idiot doofuses in going through this whole movie, would this movie be the same to you?
I think so. I like the uncle. I like the ice cream guy. I don't know. We will never know because it's not a thing. But I like all the characters. So, even the guy at the beginning who got killed for having sex.
You ain't gonna get the little kid in part 2. So
that's fine.
It's gonna be grown up, different
and
guy playing the kid.
I'll still like it.
Yep.
So anyways, with that said, we have 2 more movies for you guys next week. And it's Scott's turn to pick.
So my pick is from 1985. And this movie is something that I always saw the cover of and wanted to watch, but just never picked it up. And it's directed by Dan O'Bannon. It's
hey Scott, do you think that your movies are just a calculation of cover art and psychoanalysis of?
Well, it's funny because I already said that.
We can't fucking talk about
it. Was a joke. Anymore. I was joking. I'm allowed to joke back.
Kid diddler.
Anyways,
you gotta cut that out.
It's 1985's The Return of the Living Dead.
In the dark of the night, something strange is going on.
You see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Sure.
They ship those bodies. Well, say hello.
The dead have risen from the grave.
Mister, there's 100 of those things out there.
How many did you say?
100?
And now the question is, how do we get them back into the ground?
Bert, Frank, we have a little problem. 4 left, 10 right.
It's all over everything! Stupid asshole! Watch your tongue, boy, if you like this job! Like this job!
Great.
Medical science is baffled.
And it's a puzzle, because technically, you're not alive.
Why do you eat people?
Not people. Brains.
Yeah, I'm actually very excited about this because I've always wanted to see this movie. I own it. Never seen it. I own it. I never seen it. But that's going to change next week. Anyways, this movie, once again, just like Phantasm, the internet fucking jerks its load to this thing. Everybody and their mom's seen it. I guess we're the only 2, 3. Have you seen it?
This is one where I'm like Scott. I've seen the cover art. I've passed by it. I've seen bits and pieces.
Okay, so we're the
randomly here and there, and I know enough of this movie where I can describe some stuff of it. But yes, I have not watched it from beginning to end.
So we're the only 3 idiots on the planet who haven't seen it. I'm kind of pulling back the veil here.
They're back from the grave.
I fucking hate zombie films.
And ready to party.
I just don't think they're very good. I do not. The idea of a slow-moving creature. Unless you get the people around you, like Night of the Living Dead, which is more of social commentary than it was about zombies. I just don't feel like zombie movies work unless they're running at you full speed, and even then, it doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna watch it and give it a fair score. I'm just saying. I feel like
by the cover of this,
I know it's very punk rock. I get it.
I'm thinking it's going to be like the Night of the Living Gremlins.
So this is the type of movie we're getting ourselves into. There is a scene in this movie that I do vaguely remember where the zombies are attacking the cops. They get all the cops, and you can hear on the radio, "What's going on? What's going on?" And one of the zombies grabs the radio and goes, "Send more cops." And I'm just like, yes, please. Awesome. I am into this 100%. I'm very excited to watch this from beginning to end because I love zombie movies. I love just some of the dumb versions of these movies. I mean, there is a Return of the Living Dead 3 that I remember the box art as well, and it's just so I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I just am saying I have my reserves because of zombie film, but that's a good pick because it forces me to watch it. So essence of the show. So, random generator, beep boop bop beeps, what will be our double feature for next week? All right, random movie generator, you have picked for us Oculus.
Hello again. You must be hungry.
Tim is a healthy adult who represents no danger to himself or anyone else, and I believe he should be discharged.
Hey, little brother.
I found it.
What do you mean?
We only have a few days.
A few days for what?
To keep our promise and kill it. My name is Kaylee Ann Russell. The purpose of today's experiment is to prove that the object behind me is responsible for at least 45 deaths in the 4 centuries of its recorded existence.
We got a new home, so we get new furniture.
It's a bit ostentatious, though, don't you think?
Hey, Dad, who's that lady in your office today?
What lady?
We were just kids. We made up a scary story so we wouldn't have to accept the fact that our father was a sick man who killed our...
Mom?
2013 movie. You can watch it on Hulu. Michael Flanagan directed, which if you haven't, he's very popular right now. Starring Karen Gillan, which she's hot, and she was in Doctor Who. So, yeah, that is what we'll be watching as our second film for next week. Cool. So, we also were able to see today Halloween Kills. We just actually got back from it a couple hours ago. So, what did you guys think of that?
I'm gonna go against literally everybody on the internet and say I fucking enjoyed this. Like I boiled it down to just the most basic carnal visuals, and I loved everything about it. It was campy and dumb, and the kills were brutal and crazy, and I mean some of the dialogue was pretty bad, and just kind of I don't know. Felt weird.
The internet is freaking out about stuff, man. I mean, they're freaking out about the fire department and them killing firefighters.
I don't think that's why they gave it a bad review, and I don't think that's why people are upset. They seem to be more upset that it destroys some of the lore or nostalgia or something.
Halloween 2 killed the lore. They've killed lore the entire series.
I did say that. So I told Aaron this on kind of the drive home. I said, I wish, and okay, so spoiler alert, if you don't want, if you're listening to this, you haven't seen it, we're going to talk about certain things in the movie that's probably going to spoil the movie. Okay, so when he loses his mask and he's walking around with his horseshoe bald head, to me, kind of took me out of that because it is such.
It made him a person.
Correct.
Isn't that what did I say? That was literally my exact words.
But I don't want Michael Myers to be a person. Michael Myers he's the figure. He's the white William Shatner. He's the guy that is.
Love it.
I don't want him to be human. I don't want him to have a human side.
He's the shape, like the way they described him
shape.
originally
I
is
say
the shape, and to humanize him threw me off. They did this in 2018 as well, where you see him standing in the middle of the yard of the mental institution, and he's standing there, and he's an older man, and it humanized him. And then he puts on that mask, and you're like, oh, there he is. Okay, let's go kill some people. Yeah, I felt the same way, where it's like, oh, okay, don't take his mask off. Like,
yeah, I was really hoping. So they show him just far enough away that you can't make out details of his face,
right?
But you can see that he's like balding. He's got some facial hair. He's George Carlin. And
oh my God, yes.
That's exactly what he looked like. I thought, oh my God, George Carlin is Michael Myers. And it kind of took me out of that a little bit. Now he puts the mask back on and then just continues to fuck everybody up. And I'm like, okay, kind of redeemed a little bit. I mean, I just wish I hadn't had to see that at that moment.
And, again, spoiling things. How little screen time did Jamie Lee Curtis have in this movie?
Very little.
Like, she almost was inconsequential. Like,
she was inconsequential. She stood in bed and talked about her feelings the whole time.
Yeah, she was very upset.
I really loved it, too. I don't get why the internet's freaking out. I like the story. I like going back. Jim Cummings was in this fucking film. I fucking freaked out. I love that. If you don't know who that is, go watch Thunder Road and go watch The Wolf of Snow Hollow. He is literally, you notice he plays a cop in literally every movie he's in.
Yeah. And kind of a doofy cop. Like, he almost felt like he was...
Doofy part of the service.
It almost felt like he was the same character from The Wolf of Snow Hollow.
I completely agree.
Exact movie in because the beginning of the movie kind of does this 1978 flashback.
Which
and
I love.
And Jim Cummings' character was a cop, and it just reminded me of that same character where they're kind of going to the Myers house. He's like, derp, 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 stab, dead.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, man.
But I seriously, I just loved every second of it. I like Michael Myers. I do kind of get old. I do think the more he kills, the eviler he gets, and then he becomes impossible. Look, dude, you're taking 7 bullets into the chest and a fucking pitchfork and getting stabbed in the back of the neck. It's time to go. I get they got one more of these films to make. I understand all that. Stop putting him in these situations because you're trying to ground this in some sort of reality, but it feels more supernatural than anything.
It was weird because at the end they get him in the middle of a street, mask off, and then all of a sudden, just like that first remake where it's like, gotcha. We got you. We tricked you. You found it.
But it's a riot. It's a riot from all the
right.
the people from the past. His past, the kids from the original movies and people from the first movies, they've got them, torch and pitchforks in the middle of the street, and it's like I get it. It was cool to see the callbacks.
Yeah, because they brought in Lindsay, the little girl who the sheriff in the first movie's daughter. She ends up getting killed. She was babysitting Lindsay. Jamie Lee Curtis was babysitting Tommy Doyle, who is not played as an adult by Paul Rudd, which bums me out because I love Halloween 6. This time it's played by Anthony Michael Hall, which I don't know, love it or leave it. I don't fucking care.
I kind of liked him. He was just a little bit too aggressive for me, but I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. That's what I'm saying. I get it. He survived.
He's got 40 years of trauma apparently. Yeah, like these people can't let shit go. It's been 40 years, man. Like at some point, move on with your why do you guys still live in Haddonfield for one?
Right.
Like okay, I've been traumatized in this town. The killer almost got me. I survived. Fucking move to Los Angeles.
The best
Go
part
somewhere else.
Is that there was a line in this movie where they're showing the news in Haddonfield where like all these murders are happening, and people are like, "We moved here because it was so quiet and a nice neighborhood." Did you not read the newspapers?
It's like buying a house, and then after the fact, they're like, "Oh, by the way, it's haunted." Anyway, thanks for buying the house. No, like it and the funny thing is when you really boil it down, like this is very small town thinking. Nowadays, people get killed all the time. And if you think about it, Michael Myers only killed 3 people in the original movie. Like,
right.
It wasn't this crazy mass murder like you see in a lot of, real life situations. So this is a very microscopic version of the trauma that these people suffered through. Like Haddonfield is not on the map nationally for this one guy killing 3 people. Get over it.
I think
they're all very centralized in that thinking. So it was just weird.
I honestly think this will swing around and people will like this more later than they do now.
Yeah.
Because if you notice, like, it's very campy. They kill the annoying kids from Halloween 3. They made them super annoying on purpose to kill them.
Good.
And I think that was kind of like a wink nod at the audience. This movie should have been called Halloween and the Night No One Knows How to Use a Firearm.
Oh, my God. They give the biggest gun to... So
4 feet away.
So what was cool is that I actually went back and watched the 2018 Halloween last week before we went and did all this. So it was neat seeing... There was a scene where Michael Myers is walking down the street and Halloween's going on, and you see the couple dressed as the doctor and the nurse getting into their car and leaving. So it was neat to see them in this movie. Okay, this is where they went. This is what happened with them. And then fuck them, kill them, stab them in the eye. Like, get rid of them. And, it was neat seeing some continuity. Like, it was really kind of cool. Now,
I consider these
weird.
3 films to just be one long film that they couldn't do as one long film. You know what I mean?
Well, it's the longest night you'll ever fucking experience. I don't know when they started the night with the original Halloween remake in 2018, but I swear to God, like, they condensed so many things that in reality would take hours and hours and hours to accomplish. I mean, at one point, Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode is getting surgery. And then in the next scene, she's laying in a bed.
5 minutes later.
She's laying on the bed on her side talking to the other guy, the cop that you thought died in the first movie. Spoiler, he didn't. And she's on her side talking to him. And I'm like, I got my gallbladder removed, and it was a very minor procedure. I couldn't move from my back for hours. How is she talking to him casually like nothing ever happened? Yeah. So there is a lot of suspension of disbelief when it comes to this, but I'm not going into Halloween going, I want something raw and real.
Right.
I'm not. It's the same. I don't need Hereditary or Midsommar or all these movies. I want Michael Myers to go and just kill everybody.
Yep. Give me kills.
And the first movie, the original, was great because you don't see the blood, you don't see the gore. It was very, very. You had to imagine the violence.
Muted.
This takes that and says, "No, we're gonna show everything."
Flipping it on its side, and
like
we're gonna
immediately.
Show all of it.
And I told you guys after the movie, and like it or leave it, whatever. I could have watched him tear apart first responders for another 20 minutes. And it's, I'm a monster.
And people are upset about this part in the movie, but it is actually, it goes with the theme of the movie. I mean, he's in the house at the beginning, and they just left the house because they set it on fire.
Right.
So the first responders are actually going to the house to put out the fire because they don't know what's going on.
Right.
And then he just comes out and fucks everybody up.
It's like, hey, we're going to save the... Nope, just kidding.
Yeah.
And
so I don't think that it was one of those scenes that people are calling for it to be taken out of the movie.
Fuck people.
You know what? It doesn't need to be taken out of the movie. It's perfectly fine.
Well, and what's great is that for me, the 2018 version really hit home for me when you had a character. So in the first movie, there's this dad and there's this kid, and they're traveling down the road. And the dad's taking the kid to go hunting. And the kid's like, I don't want to hunt. I like dancing. So it's kind of like the modern, kid wanting to do more things than just hunt. And the dad's trying to, macho him up a little bit and go take him hunting. And they come across the wreckage of the bus. And Michael Myers and everybody's kind of escaped. And the dad goes out, does all this stuff. He disappears. And what's great about that movie and what really brought it, and again, this probably says something to my mental health. I probably should go see somebody. Michael Myers kills that kid. He beats his head against the window inside the vehicle. And that was like, you don't see that a lot.
As all kids who want to dance should be.
Well, I'm just saying, like, like when we talked about Phantasm, how like you see these kids, they usually put in these situations. 9 times out of 10, they're gonna survive because it's almost an unwritten rule where you don't kill the kids. Animals sometimes you don't kill those things, like things like that. Michael Myers beats this kid's head. I mean, this is probably an 11-year-old into the window and kills him. And I'm sitting there going, okay, where can they go from here? And that's why it's kind of cool to see the escalation in this movie. Like, they're not afraid to kill people. I mean, he killed a gay couple, which, oh my God, the worst names of characters: Big John and Little John. And it's funny when they do it. And
they refer to themselves through the whole movie as Big John and Little John.
And I don't know anybody that would do that. Like, that's such a weird dynamic, but I liked the idea that they scared the kids and, they freaked them out with the lore of the Myers house because they were living there. And, some of the stuff played pretty well, and other stuff was very just callbacks to nostalgia. You've got the original sheriff, you have, the original Lindsay, and you have Tommy Doyle. They added some weird character that didn't really exist in the original series.
The cop?
No, the kid that, when Michael Myers walks up to the
falls
kid,
on
and
the
then
sidewalk.
and then he kind of hides himself, and then that's it. And for me, watching this movie, I was afraid they were going to go the route of they're finally going to kill Michael Myers, and either the daughter of Laurie Strode picks up the mask and goes crazy because she ends up stabbing him later, and it kind of messes with her a little bit.
I'd have quit right
or,
there.
Yeah. Or it was going to be that kid that was getting picked on in 1978 that saw Michael, and then that was it. I feel like maybe something would have happened with him as well, and it turns out it was actually the father of Laurie's daughter's daughter, the boyfriend, which, fuck, I'm glad they killed him because I hated that guy from the first movie. I'm glad they killed his dumbass. Anyway.
Well.
So do you think they took a little bit from the Rob Zombie remake by taking the beginning of the movie and flashing it back to the original on all the stuff you didn't see at the end of the original movie? Because we get Sam, he comes out, and it's them trying to get Michael back after he's killed these people and he's left the house. They kind of throw it back and give you that, hey, this is what you didn't see. And that's kind of what the Rob Zombie remake did was, hey, this is the kid part that you didn't see with the movie.
Yeah. I mean, that was pretty cool. I just love this franchise so much. Even the worst parts of these movies are still some of my favorite things in the world.
You know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
When you go to a Halloween
and that's
movie.
why, like, when people are going to this movie and then they're trashing it for, the weird, ending, which, yes, it's a little weird. You kind of sit there and go, how did he get there again? Why is he still up? Like you said, they unloaded 8 or 9 bullets into him. It's just, I loved it. Like, I really just loved this stupid. It was perfect. I might want to go get that trial subscription to Peacock and just rewatch it later just to watch some of the stuff.
And you can go watch it in October.
Oh, a Halloween movie 2 weeks removed from Halloween could not be the best possible thing. Like, it makes me so happy. We're not talking about this movie releasing right now in the middle of March. Like, I'm very
awesome.
Happy about.
Yeah, it's
this.
not a summer movie.
Yeah.
What'd you give it?
Honestly, I'm gonna get a lot of shit. I can give it a 4. Fuck it.
Nice.
It was fun. I like this movie. I rewatched this movie. I actually pre-ordered it this morning before we went and saw it. It's up on Amazon for pre-order. I will probably get the Steelbook. I just got my 5-movie set in 4K like you did. It's fantastic. I love this franchise. I will see every one of them, no matter how bad it is. It's a 4.
What'd you give it, Scott?
It's a 3. I think.
Fuck you. It's a 4.
No, I mean it's a 3 for me. Is better than half.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's if we're giving it on a scale of 5, a 3 for me is good. I liked it. It had good kills. Is it a necessary part of this Halloween? Who knows? It's one of those take it or leave it movies. But it's Michael Myers. It's Halloween. It is what it is. You get what you get. So it's a solid 3.
This makes me want to revisit the second Rob Zombie version, Halloween 2. I remember seeing that movie in the theater and really not liking it. And everyone has since said, well, that was really good. It was really good. I'm sitting there going, was I just not in the right headspace for that second movie with Rob Zombie? So I'm going to go back and watch
the
it.
podcast. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I liked it a lot, but there were just some stuff that I was just like, Jesus, can we learn from our mistakes? At one point in this movie, they're screaming out like catchphrases in a hospital, and
tonight, evil dies tonight.
Yeah,
evil dies tonight.
So it was just it got a little goofy, I would say, at some points, but if you took all that stuff out, it'd be fine.
Right.
I think it fits fine into the lore, into the genre, whatever. I have no inherent issues with this film except for how people shoot guns. You wouldn't go to a burning house without police presence, but it's fine. I get it's a movie. I can disassociate myself, but some of those things are very are very minor, but I can't help you. Like,
but see,
why?
Michael was killing people that night. Do you think the police presence was pulled in a different direction, and that's why
it doesn't
you
matter.
didn't have it? And it's a small town. Like, they don't have this giant police force. Even the black guy with the cowboy hat wasn't part of Haddonfield. It's more of like a Pinal County sheriff or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yes, I understand, and I know that you're trying to justify it, but I'm just saying.
I'm not justifying. It's ridiculous, but you know,
that's the frustrating thing. It's just like, why isn't there anyone there?
But see, you're trying to inject reality in something that's just fantastic.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But
okay. I dug it. I think it was really good.
So, anyways, this show has been a absolute shit show on the other end that you didn't get to hear, but it's all good. We made it through. We
made it through.
With
Allison Cooper.
This is I'll Watch It Later podcast. Good night. No, I'm kidding. This is the I'll Watch It Later October Spooktacular. Expect hopefully a much better episode next time than this.
Don't count on it.
Well, does anything come out next weekend?
Movie wise?
Oh, Dune. But
Dune
I
comes
guess
out?
we could talk about that. It's our show. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah, no, Dune's coming out. A lot of the early reviews on that one are pretty positive.
Yeah.
But the problem is a lot of early reviews on Halloween Kills was very positive, and then it just went fucking downhill as far as people reviewing shit. So I'm done with watching people's reviews. I don't fucking care.
I've been like that for a long time, so welcome to the club. But as always, guys, you can follow us on our website, I'llWatchItLaterPodcast.com. I'llWatchItLaterPod.com. I'm kidding.
Just gave an evil eye.
I'll just confuse everybody that's listening. So go ahead and watch Return of the Living Dead and
Oculus.
I think you guys are gonna like that one. I've seen it. But it's been.
Do you own it?
Years. No, actually, I don't.
Fuck. Wow.
Now I got to create a new theme song.
New category. Seen it, not own it.
I've seen it.
And that's like a readily available
own it.
movie, too. Like, I'm surprised because you own things like Free Guy. I saw your post the other day, and I was actually almost upset with you for buying that.
Only reason I own it is because I try.
fucking K.
I own everything. I'm a collector.
I'm a
That's
collector.
it. I just never. Yeah, I don't know why. Well, I can change it in 2 seconds. Anyways, so I'm Aaron.
I'm Jordan.
And Scott.
And this is I'll Watch It Later podcast. We'll see you guys next week.